Caspar actually began as Fort Caspar, where the Old West comes back to life every summer. Welcome to Fort Caspar, Wyoming, in the 1860s.
Strike, develop, recover.
Soldiers drill. The cavalry trains.
3, 2, 1, fire!
And the artillery practices.
What we're hoping is to give people just a little bit of a glimpse of what life would have been like during the 1860s when people were living out here.
On this hot summer weekend in the 21st century,
Pressure, I got pressure.
Wyoming's Fort Caspar Museum is hosting Caspar Collins Day. Today's Fort Caspar looks pretty much like the one that stood here back in the 1860s. That's because the reconstruction was based upon the blueprints left behind by the man the fort is named for, Lieutenant Caspar Collins.
Caspar Collins was a pretty good artist and draftsman.
Collins was a 20-year-old in the 1860s, a second lieutenant in the U.S. Cavalry, stationed at this remote army post near a critical Oregon Trail wagon bridge over the North Platte River. And in his spare time, Collins drew blueprints of the fort that were used to recreate it in 1936.
So in 1936, they had an 1864 blueprint. So I know where the windows were, where the doors were, where the fireplaces were. This is exactly what was here, and we are on the original location.
Take a peek inside the buildings, and they're all furnished as they would have been in the 1860s.
And this is a nice site.
It's great fun for reenactors.
This really is. I like coming here. You know, the buildings here, sometimes we get to live inside the buildings. So it kind of steps me back to 1866.
So strike, develop, recover.
Robert Cuevas plays the sergeant leading his soldiers through the Army's 19th century bayonet drills.
When you actually put the uniform on, you become part of history. And so you kind of, for a very short period of time, feel what they felt. So it makes those books, those journals, and everything from them, from back then, come back to life. Look at your chest, right there.
Form on me!
Elsewhere on the post, the cavalry trains.
This is just some of the basic drills they did. Just kind of a day in the life of a cav trooper out west. Gallop! March!
Wearing wool uniforms horseback under the blazing summer sun gives you a taste of what it was like to be a horse soldier.
Forward! Guard! Oh!
That's what we do.
The only way to remember history is to tie emotion to history. And so the way to do that is to feel the fabric and to sit in the saddle and to smell the sweat from the horse and the tools and the equipment they used more than 150 years ago.
You're smelling the sweat today, huh?
Oh yeah.
Feeling the sweat.
Feeling the sweat.
Shooting cannons is fun.
Steps away, the artillery practices with what's commonly called a cannon, but more accurately known as a field howitzer.
So that's a real working howitzer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does everything the originals did.
Well, let's go over the implements that we use.
These are not simple to operate.
So there's going to be debris that's left in the bore from the powder bag. So what you want to do is you run this down, then you're going to spin it around, and you're going to pull the debris out. So then we would take the sponge.
And it takes an expert crew to safely fire even the blanks blasted here today.
So then I would...
So these are pretty labor intensive.
Yes.
These men and women really know their stuff.
This is the rear sight, and it tilts, so if you're on the side of a hill or something, it'll always be level.
3, 2.
Of course, the fun part is pulling the trigger.
Oh, love it, love it, love it. That was awesome.
So scary. I liked it.
You liked it?
There are quieter pleasures here as well, like getting to meet the horses.
They're beautiful. Thanks.
The horses earn their keep, hauling away the howitzer after the last shot is fired. It's fascinating to get this glimpse of life into the 1860s, but this life was not easy.
Harsh. It would have been a tough existence. There's not another fort for 50 miles that direction and 30 miles that direction. And when this fort starts, you're looking at 25 guys. So these guys, it would have been out here, alone, so to speak.
And the men stationed here were in the Army, in a war with the surrounding Indian nations, fighting to preserve their very way of life.
Summer of 1865, there was trouble between the Army and the American Indians all up and down the trail, all around, as a direct result of the Sand Creek Massacre the previous winter.
Caspar Collins was killed July 25, 1865, during an Indian attack on the small detachment he led to protect an incoming wagon train carrying supplies to the fort. The wagon train was attacked that afternoon, and only 3 of its 25 men survived.
As a result of the young lieutenant being killed, the Army changes the name of this fort from Plattbridge Station to Fort Caspar, using his first name because there's already Fort Collins that was named after his dad. And in the process of doing that, they spelled his name wrong, which is why you see the difference in spellings between the Caspar now, C-A-S-P-E-R, and the museum, which is C-A-S-P-A-R.
The Indian Wars are, of course, long over, and the fort now stands within the modern city of Caspar, Wyoming.
Forward to walk. March.
But for one weekend in July, Fort Caspar comes back to life.
3, 2, 1, fire! Maybe.
Providing a unique opportunity to step back in time and into a different world and experience the living history of the American West.